Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name is Jared Mello. Hopefully, you've all been enjoying the interviews that I've been doing. I'm trying to at least do one interview a week. So, if you have any guests that you would like me to interview or any recommendations, I'd be all ears. But as of now, I'm scheduling at least one a week, sometimes two. And if you're here, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I talk about narcissism a lot here, radical self respect, relationships, codependency, healing. And I want to also open up my interview series to anything really, just things that I find interesting. Hopefully, the audience is okay with that. And we'll just see how that part goes. And when you get to the end of this video, please remember to like it if you do indeed like the video. Now, today I'm going to talk about when your family thinks you're the bad guy for having a boundary. This is something that I see happen a lot, and it happens because someone is finally privy and they understand what is going on, how a narcissistic person has been treating them poorly, maybe belittling them, gaslighting them, flipping the script on them, picking at their flaws, picking at their insecurities. But whatever it is, a person has finally had enough and they cut that person off. And this could be a father, mother, grandparent, cousin. I've seen it in all of these kinds of scenarios. But when the person finally has had enough, usually they're able to cut them off. But the issue becomes sometimes you still have to see them at family functions, for example. And you can't go complete no contact. And then when you're there, you might be a little irritable around them because they have traumatized you, right? They have treated you really poorly. And it's not very fun to be in the presence of someone who's treated you really poorly. So then your family might get on you and say, why can't you just get along? You only live once, you're going to cut off your family. And they think since you're kind of bothered by their energy, that it's you that has the problem. In narcissistic family systems, they will often blame the person that has the boundary and say, you have the problem because you can't just go along to get along. One of the hallmarks of a toxic family system is not solving any conflicts and sweeping all of the problems under the rug. That is one of their hallmarks. And so when they see someone not sweeping things under the rug, they say, oh my goodness, look at this person. They're causing so much conflict. But here's the thing. It's healthy to have that level of conflict. Boundaries are healthy. Saying no is healthy. Sweeping things under the rug, pretending things didn't happen, that is not healthy. But in the narcissistic family system, that's the norm. So, unfortunately, oftentimes, when someone finally cuts off the narcissist in the family, the rest of the family hasn't changed. There may be flying monkeys to the narcissistic person. Maybe they're narcissistic themselves. But often they will defend the narcissistic person. And it will make your life a little more difficult because they'll give you some subtle jabs like, you should be talking to him. Or that person wants to talk to you so badly, They want to be involved in your life, And this is what the narcissistic person will do to make them look like the savior, good guy that wants to make the amends, that wants to talk to you. And they do this so that you will look a little more ridiculous. And this is all calculated because when you have the boundary and you don't want to get into it all with your family because it's really none of their business, it just appears like to them that you're the one that's being stubborn and you're the one that has the issue. But and I know, that is not true at all. The reality is that person, the narcissistic person, has probably treated you very poorly in the past, and you have a very good reason for cutting them off. And I would say chances are they didn't change. And the way you know they didn't change is if they're going around your boundaries to try to talk to you, like calling you from blocked numbers or unknown numbers or adding you to group texts. If they're not respecting your wishes and trying to go around your boundaries, that's a good indicator they haven't changed. Any kind of person, whether it's a narcissist or not, I would need to see them do a lot of effort and a lot of footwork for me to believe they finally changed, because most people don't unless they put in a concerted effort to do so. And if someone hasn't done something drastic, put work in on themselves, held themselves accountable, I wouldn't believe it. So how do we handle these kinds of family gatherings when they're around? Maybe our family's giving us a hard time about it, and just being around them can be bothersome. And I get this because I'm in a similar situation with this myself. And what I would say is the following. Remember, the narcissistic person, they are like an emotional 5-year-old. And we got to see them as that person, not because for any other reason than it'll help us. When we see them as a 5-year-old and imagine all the things they would say, and if it was a 5-year-old saying it, how upset would we be? And I think framing it in that way will just help us. Remember, they're a 5-year-old, and remember that they're only coming from their own level of maturity, which is that of like a 5 to 8-year-old. And I think this helps us to get rid of the power, alleviate the power that they have over our lives. To diminish and reduce in significance the power they have over our lives is the way to win this. And again, usually the way to win is to not play the game. But in this case, you just got to diminish the power they have. And there's also clues in this too, where like if they were to gaslight you about certain topics, there might be clues in those topics of things to work on. I don't know. It depends on each individual situation. But the way to go about it is see them as a 5-year-old. And remember that just because your family might not understand doesn't mean you're wrong. That's another big thing to remember too. Just because someone doesn't agree doesn't mean you're wrong. So these are the tools that I use for myself. I've given up trying to make sure other people agree with me or understand my story. Chances are they're not going to. And we got to be okay with that. Because, yeah, just because we've cut off one person doesn't mean we got to cut off the rest of the family. But if you do feel that's best for yourself, that's okay too. But in my case, that hasn't been necessary. But it does cause some other issues. So remember, work on our own emotional self-control to be at the most level of peace that we can. Don't jade. Do not give them any kind of emotional reactions. Gray rock, yellow rock at most. But they might try to provoke us. They might try to get under our skin. But no justifying, no arguing, no defending, no explaining, no emotional reactions of any kind. And the way to do that is the way to see it, see them as that 5-year-old, and it will really help because, yeah, this is a tough situation. It's not normal that someone has to have repeated contact with people that have treated them poorly. And again, in the perfect world, everyone would understand our boundaries and say, yep, I understand completely why you don't talk to that person anymore. I'm not going to say a word about it. But unfortunately, in these toxic family systems, that is rarely how it goes. There is always going to be some sort of runaround. They'll give you some grief. They'll give you some passive aggressive jabs. They'll give you a little bit of a hard time. And it's hard, but we just can't feed into it in any way. You just got to let it slide off of you like water over a duck's back. That's the way. And that's not a magic bullet here, but that's the way to do it. And remember, this too shall pass. It'll just be one day. Minimize it in significance. But the more we blow it up in our heads and dread a day, the worse it gets. But if we live in the now, we'll know that whatever day that is, it'll come and go before we know it. And these little mindset tricks, they can go a far way. Seeing them as a 5-year-old, living in the now, knowing that we don't need to turn the molehill into a mountain. That's something that a lot of people do too. And part of this is, how do we live in our normal life? Do we do meditation? Do we have some sort of spiritual practice? Are we exercising a lot? Do we have a good sleep and diet routine? All of those things will contribute to our level of emotional self-control. The better we are with ourselves, the healthier we are, the more fit we are, the well-rested we are, the more likely, at least for me, I'm able to be the best version of myself, and I have the most amount of emotional self-control. Now, unfortunately, sometimes when I'm a little bit stressed or irritable, that's when the universe starts to send some nonsense my way sometimes, and that's when I'm more likely to get sucked in. And when I'm in that stressed mode, that irritable mode, that is when it's the hardest to not get sucked in. I fully admit that. And if there was anything I'm really working on in my own life right now, it's that. When my routine gets disrupted or someone tries to jolt me when I'm not ready for it, not getting sucked in and given some sort of irritable or annoyed reaction back. That's what I'm working on right now. And yeah, because I'm certainly not perfect myself. There's things I need to be doing better. And for me, that's what I got to try to do. But when we take care of our side and make sure that like our mental, emotional, and spiritual health, physical health is as good as it can be, that goes a far way. It absolutely does. But if we're frazzled, if maybe we're hung over or something, yeah, it's going to be hard to have some emotional self-control in that scenario. Your your sense of peace will be on a razor's edge, and you might have a hairpin trigger in that case, and that's something that you got to watch out for. But that's more of a self-inflicted wound though too. So this day you minimize it in importance, minimize it in significance, diminish the power that the narcissistic person has over your life. You see them as a 5-year-old. You work on all of your insecurities or whatever the things they would poke you about in the past. And when we own our flaws, we own our insecurities, they can't be used against us. So that's my recommendation for if you have to see a narcissistic person at a family outing. Don't let the family's flying monkeys get to you. Don't let their jabs get to you. Don't let them say something like, oh, why can't you just get along? You only have one family. You're not going to live forever. Don't let their guilt tripping, because that's what it is. Don't let that get to you. Remember, the narcissistic person probably hasn't changed, especially if they're trying to go around your boundaries to contact you when they know you don't want to talk to them. That's another clue. And see them as that 5-year-old. Own your insecurities and your flaws. Minimize that day in importance and significance. And know that it'll be over before you know it. This too shall pass, as they say. And all those little things, they can sound corny, they can sound ridiculous, but they're true. They're true, though, as well. And in those moments when we're stressed, when we're not at our best, it's those little things that I really hold on to that really help me. So that's the video for today. It's not going to be a long video, but I think it's an important one because this is something I've been through. I'm sure other people have been through this too. And it's similar to that of a co-parenting situation, honestly. The situations where you have to deal with them, they will be the hardest. So, but the tools can be used regardless of their relationship to you. The tools are effective. That I promise you. So if you got this far, please remember to like the video, share it with someone that you think might benefit from hearing this message. And again, let me know in the comments section below what you think about this video and any other topics you would like to see me cover. So with that, thanks for watching. Have a good one.